And we're live, and you should also be live on the other ones that you've put in, right? So, hello everybody. Oh, wow. Again, here we are. When we come together, it is Tuesday afternoon, and I'm trying to go live on Instagram also, but it doesn't seem to be working for some reason.
Okay.
It says checking connection. It's not connecting.
Okay. Then let's start on the other platforms maybe.
Okay.
Saying hello to everyone.
And we are live on Facebook and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other ones that we're trying out today?
I don't know, because I'm not sure that it worked, because I would have needed to add them now, and I don't have the feature. So what we tried out earlier is not working at the moment, so we have to.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah.
Did you add them to
the
this
feature
session?
The feature that I had earlier when we tried this is not here at the moment. So for this time, we cannot stream on the others, but we will work it out.
We'll work it out.
It's trial and error. Try to find out how this works. So
indeed.
Can you try again on Instagram, maybe? I don't know if that works.
Instagram. Let me cancel the one on Instagram right now and try one more time.
So maybe those who are following us, if you have any questions, please ask them in the comments so that we can see it. The question it. Oh.
No, it's not going live for some reason.
That's not working.
Right away. And this is strange.
Instagram doesn't want to.
No,
doesn't want us.
Every week we have something going on with Instagram. Before we get this thing sorted out,
Yes.
Because I am. Last time I was in the. Last time I was in. Yeah, I was in the wrong account.
Now you're in the right one.
I am.
So
I am
great.
indeed in the right one.
As today I'm connecting as a guest, we are trying out new features on StreamYard, so to see how it works. I'm not sure that I see all the comments. I don't know who is in the room, so that is something else that I don't.
Oh, okay.
I
don't see. Well, I mean, unfortunately, I'm not seeing anybody right now. So I kind of wonder if we're actually live on anywhere.
That might be. Let
me check on my iPad to see if.
Yeah, I'm also checking on the other. No, I think we are live. Yeah. We are live. Yes.
Good.
Let me just mute myself on the other device. So we are live there on Facebook, at least that I checked. So if there is anyone. So we are live there on Facebook, at least.
Yes, and we're live on YouTube. So.
On YouTube as well. So
and we're not seeing it here, which is strange. I see 0 right now on my screen.
Never mind. I don't know what is going on today. So
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm also gonna
what works.
I'm gonna go live on my other phone. Like, remember we did this once, going live on another phone.
Okay.
Let me see here. Okay.
What will we talk about today? Do you have any topics in mind? I have a few, but
everything and anything.
Everything and anything.
Are you sure?
Alles und nichts. Tutto e niente.
Are you sure you want to end? No.
You know that
live.
you are
upside so we are
down.
Live. Now come on in.
Tetsu, you are upside down on YouTube.
Are you sure? Oh, really?
Yeah, you're upside down.
Because I'm trying to see if I could use my phone upside down so that I get the camera closer to the other camera.
I see. Are you in space somewhere?
Okay, I'm going to put you on right now.
That's fine. Now you're right.
All these new ideas. Oh my God.
We have too many ideas. Every week we come up with something new, and then we want to try out immediately. And yes, that's how it works. So great. And there. I see that your camera is a bit rotating. So hello everyone on Instagram.
Okay. All right. You know what I'm trying to do is I have my computer camera right here. Okay, so this is going live on YouTube and Facebook, and then I have my Instagram camera here. So that's why I wanted to turn the camera so that both cameras are closer, so I'd be looking into the camera for both.
I've put my camera that I usually have on my desktop on top of my tablet on my iPad, so it's very close. That works. That's a little thing. But hello, I see Almania Badir Pedagog who is watching, sorry, and on Instagram.
All right. Well,
if you have any questions about raising children with multiple languages or staying multilingual yourself, maybe something that you have encountered in the past week and you would like to share, please let us know. And we're going to read it out loud and then talk about this.
All right. Oh, this is like my favorite time of the week where we just kind of sit down and relax and just, just talk about everything and anything that comes up. That's right. I have my tea.
Exactly. Yes, we can talk about anything and everything.
Langfest, we could maybe think about RML mug, something T-shirt.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be. Hi, Be Happy Abroad. Hello, nice to
Be Happy Abroad. What a nice handle name.
Yes, I think they are having an online conference in is it next week or the week after? I think the week after.
Really?
It's, several days. Yes.
That's nice.
Talked about this on LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, Tetsu, do you see yourself on Instagram? Because I don't see your image on Instagram on my.
Are you serious? Yeah, I do.
You do? Okay.
No, I just turned it off.
It's just loading on my. Oh, now I see you.
I turned it off and on again.
Okay, great. So, like we said before, if you have any questions, please ask us in the chat, and we're going to discuss about this. So otherwise we will start ourselves somehow. Tetsu.
Yes. What? Tell me, Ute, what have you been doing this past week? I do see lots of activities for RML, but otherwise.
For RML, yeah. Otherwise, as well, I'm preparing a training for experts in May about raising children with multiple languages. It's a 3-day training. Yes, I'm training educators and some from a research project in Iceland. And they're coming here for 3 days, and I'm really very much looking forward to this. So it's going to be very intense, but very, very interesting for all of us, I think.
It's all happening in your neighborhood.
It's it's at Ute's International Lounge. So it's a training
so it's online?
that I'm giving. No, it's in person. They're coming here.
So they're coming into your neck of the wood.
Yes,
coming in from Iceland.
Yes, and then there are other things as well. But language-wise, is there anything new on your side? I heard that your children are going to go to Japan soon.
That's right. That's right. For perhaps for those who don't know, what we do at my home is we have 4 kids, and we raise them in 5 languages. That's English, French, Japanese, Mandarin, and Spanish. And to strengthen the Japanese and Mandarin, every year we sent them off to Japan.
You send them off. It's like, okay.
So my wife goes off to Japan every spring, like it is now, around mid to end of April. They would go, and normally up to 2019, what we were doing is 2 months in Japan, in Nagasaki, which is where my wife is from, and then 2 months in Taiwan, where half of my family is from. So, and that allows them to go to the local school and interact, with the local people 24/7 and strengthen their Japanese and Mandarin. Now, since the pandemic, they've only been to Japan every summer. So that's significantly strengthened their Japanese over the, about 4 or 5 months every year. And now this year for the first time, and hopefully it'll take place.
Touch
We're
wood.
we're going to Taiwan.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
I mean, we're going to Taiwan in July.
In July.
July and August.
Yeah, let's hope that everything works, right? But
No,
it's a great option that you have there that not everyone can have, of course. To spend several weeks, months in a place where the home languages are spoken, right? And to send children to school so that they get also some formal instruction, so they learn, I imagine, also some maths or yes, other subjects, not only language in Chinese and in Japanese, which is amazing because it's like going to 3 schools somehow.
Yeah, they're not learning Chinese, or they're not learning Japanese. They're learning in Chinese.
In Chinese and in Japanese.
You know,
it's a huge difference, yes. And I find, especially when children, let's say, I mean, the spectrum of multilingual families is very broad, right? You have some children who barely speak the home languages up to children who speak it to a very high proficiency. But when the children then get formal tuition in a school abroad in their home languages, very often it's a little bit boring, or it is about topics that they cannot really relate to. I went through some books that my children brought home from school in German, for example, and I was surprised that the language, the slang, that were little words. I said, this is from the 80s. So it's not really so up to date. I mean, it always obviously depends also on how much they are exposed to the current language of the place. But
but when you're in the environment, you get to get to interact with their peers. So that's really important. I think they get to learn the natural way of speaking.
Yeah, I remember when I was
relevant.
Yeah. When I was a child, I remember that I was always 1 year behind my cousins, somehow with the slang. It took me 2-3 weeks. We only spent maybe 3 weeks in Germany. And then I would catch up and get to know the new words and what you are watching, what you're listening to. And then the next year, the following year, they were already like 10 kilometers ahead of me, and I was like always running behind. But that's a little bit the feeling that you doing it this way, you maybe give them the opportunity to not feel like that too much, because they really dive into it.
And much of what we do is it's not all about academics and knowing the language mechanics per se. Especially for languages like Chinese and Japanese, which is so different from the North American languages, including here it's English and French. It's so different that really just like studying it per se, I don't think it's really gonna help them enough in what we want to do.
No, not enough.
Especially if they're not interested. Like I just assume my kids are not interested in languages. If they are, great. But I assume that, like normal kids,
that's interesting.
They're not neither interested nor do they detest language. It's like air, it's just something they do. It's just something that they speak.
That's an interesting point. I think we were talking about, at the end of one of the previous sessions, we were talking. We would have liked to talk, but then it was time over, about what success is, right? Successful language speaking or learning. And I think partly it also depends on what we have in mind when we raise our children with multiple languages. What is the goal that we have in mind? Do we want them to climb up the Mount Everest or not? Or is a hill enough, or a dune? I'm in the Netherlands, so we don't really have mountains.
And it's also what mountain I sort of see. Is this a mountain to become like an expert in that language, like become a professional interpreter or whatever? Do they really need that kind of like hard knowledge for that language? Or if it's another mountain, it's just communications and being able to make friends in that language, being
Mhm.
able to integrate into society. And we're kind of going for the latter. Although they go to the local schools and they do have sort of age standardized level of reading, probably not writing, but reading at least,
Mhm.
um,
Which is already
up to
something.
about fourth grade.
Okay.
So it's not bad. But my oldest, so Ronnie, he's 10. He's going on 11 this July, and it's the first time he's going to stay back here in Canada with me. Only the younger three. So that's Nika. She's 9. So this
Mhm.
this is probably her last, if not her second to last year.
Mhm.
And then so Nika, Akila, and Nina, they're gonna
Mhm.
go this year.
Yes, it's a new experience for them all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as you said before, maybe we start with this intention, and then we see also how our children develop and how the whole situation develops, and see what they are interested in and how far they want to go, if they want to read or so write, or maybe not read and not write, and
Mm-hmm.
and then make the best out of that,
It's, it,
given
it,
the context also, right?
it's amazing, when I heard you say I think your son is learning Chinese,
Hmm.
right? Like you didn't tell him to learn Chinese or anything, like he
No,
just picked it up, right? That's something that my kids don't have. Like
not
my
yet.
children don't come and say, "Hey, I want to learn this language or that language." Uh,
You know, when he was 10, 11, he didn't either.
mhm.
I think it can come when they are older, and when
Okay.
then they have peers
Hmm.
that speak the language, and they realize even more how what an advantage it is if you know just a few words, even saying
Hmm.
hello, good morning, good evening, or how was your day, or something like that, and
Hmm.
then start from there. And sometimes it's really like, oh, I like that sound of that language. What is that language? And then they want to try it out, and
Indeed.
that's something that I wouldn't say it's that door is closed. It's still open, so they have every possibility there. And no, I didn't ask them. I mean, I said, well, you can try anything. I mean, like with sports, like with every other skill as well. So
Like Bella, the little Russian girl
mhm,
who's learning 8 languages when she was
mhm.
5. She's just like 2 weeks younger than Ronnie, so
Oh, okay.
she came to our home with her parents,
Parents.
and I saw them interact, and she is like she loves languages. Like you can just see, like she's the one who's asking mom if she could learn this new language, and so that's where I think that's special. And
Mm,
oftentimes when I do see kids, like young kids who are interested in languages, oftentimes it's a girl. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. I've rarely seen little boys want to learn languages on their own.
mm,
The rare cases that I hear about, I think most, if not all, that I've heard are girls.
mm. No, I've heard also some other boys
Yeah,
who
like I
want
mean,
to learn.
young kids, like
Oh,
under
young
10,
kids. No,
under
young
10.
kids.
Yeah, because older now it becomes more of a cerebral, like intellectual activity,
Yes,
right? Uh,
more
it's more
conscious.
like I should learn this language because XYZ. I could.
Yeah.
So
Yes, or
that I feel is different.
yeah, and also as a personal challenge, right? You say,
Hmm.
okay, this is a very difficult language.
Hmm.
Let's just start and see how far I can go, if I
Yeah.
can still hear. Because with Chinese, when my son started with Chinese, I said, well, try to understand if you can hear the differences, because
Hmm.
at some point, we lose a little bit this hearing device that we have becomes a little bit numbed
Yeah.
or not so, yeah, you know what I mean. And then he repeated several words to me, and explained to me the difference, and I could slightly hear the difference, but not as much as he did. So I
Okay.
said, okay, you're still young enough to learn it, but I would make terrible mistakes. I mean, that's fine. I mean, it's how it is. But yeah, So
The hearing. So you believe that as we get older, we lose the ability to hear certain things, certain nuances.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, because on the other hand, people who work with music, who like music, and yeah, I think you can train your hearing. I think I'm convinced you can train it, but I wouldn't know how to train it. Or let's say, in order to understand the nuances, I think I would need to be fully immersed and to be consciously trying to differentiate between the different words. And then maybe, I have no idea, it's we could test it out, but I would need a lot of time and patience. I'm not so patient, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, I've rarely seen somebody who could speak two languages to a native level. I mean, they exist definitely, but it's already pretty rare to have somebody who can speak just two languages at the same, native level.
Almost,
So I
yes.
think it's hard. It's very hard, and I do believe that we lose. This comes into play with things like brain development when you're very young. All these synapses, the connections, and then there's pruning of the unused
Yeah.
neurons. So that's where I think perhaps we actually do, like, physiologically lose this capacity to hear certain sounds simply because we don't use it.
But
Can we
then
redevelop it? That
I wonder, and I think it should be possible due to the plasticity of the brain. Why not?
Well, the plasticity when you're really young.
But also when you're older, don't you?
I don't know.
I wonder, because if let's say you have been exposed to language ABC or yellow, blue, green from early on, and then you don't speak them all for a longer time, or one or two of them, and you reuse them in an intensive way later on. Don't you think you can reactivate really all the different levels?
Yeah, well, I think it
Intonation.
depends on if you have a permanent
Yes.
ability to hear those sounds.
Okay.
Perhaps you've used that language until you were 7, 8, 9 or so, and then you stopped using it for a while. Then it's there, right? Whereas if you've not used, if you stopped at 1 or 2 or 3, let's say,
No,
right,
it needs
then those neurons that you had developed to hear these sounds, they could get pruned out.
to get pruned out. Yeah.
And it used to be that everybody said you cannot regenerate brain cells. We're all nervous cells, but I think I've seen information about that refute that. But I definitely think it's not something like it's not like the liver. You cut half your liver and throw it out. It'll regenerate, right? Brain cells definitely will not do that. So,
or rebuild.
I wouldn't be so optimistic about this. Or else we would see many people who are able to speak, different languages without accent.
That would be nice.
I think we're speaking strictly about accent, or like a natural way of speaking.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's nice also to have an accent, as long as you can make yourself understood. It's not too terrible, I think. But let's ask those on Instagram. Is there anyone who would like to share something about their language use, or what their experience is with learning languages early on or later on? There is not enough research about later learners of multiple languages or multilinguals, and then later in life. This is something that I really am missing a little bit. I don't know if there are comments.
What's the question that you would like to be answered in that area? So you're a multilingual. You grew up thinking multilingual is the norm, without thinking too much about it. It's just something that you do. It's not something you're proud of or not proud of, or it's just part of life. Like, I've grown, most of my life, when I was my childhood, not thinking about the fact that I was speaking several languages.
Yeah, no, neither.
But you grow up and you have these different languages, now I'm super proud of it. But
Mhm.
what is a question that you would like researchers to answer in terms of how these multilinguals grow up and they sort of become like what the polyglots call polyglots,
Polyglots
which
or
is
so, yes.
active learning,
Hmm.
active interest in these languages.
Yes, for example, this is what we were just talking about.
Mhm.
So, up until what age or what is it that determines if I can become fluent or proficient to a
Mhm.
higher level in a new language? And
You have to be careful with that the definition of fluency.
I know, yes, I know. It's a very,
there's,
I have
there's
a post
accent,
about that.
yeah, there's
Yes,
accent, and then
exactly.
there's, let's say, fluency,
Whatever
and
there
there's
is now. No, also proficiency.
knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the knowledge. I mean, now in speaking, yes, and in articulating sounds
Mhm.
in a language that is not one that is very close to those that I already know, or where I
Yeah.
have, let's say, practice enough my the articulation that I can form these sounds. So I have to learn them from scratch,
Mhm.
so to say.
So many aspects that make these questions so difficult to answer.
Yeah.
Because the first thing you need to do, like we're talking about right now, is to first define what is that specific question you're trying to answer.
Mm-hmm.
If we ask purely about accent,
Mm.
it could be what we were talking about a little earlier. Your ability to hear specific sounds could impair upon your ability to output a specific accent
Mm-hmm.
because you're not able to hear it adequately. You might
Mm-hmm.
not by consequence you're not able to output that sound,
Mm-hmm.
uh, produce it. Because I used to think when I was really young that it's all about your vocal muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You've not trained your muscles in such a way to produce a certain sound, is what I
Mm.
was always, what I
Or
always thought.
articulate. Mm.
But my mother, she used to talk about listening a lot and about different frequencies, sound frequencies in the auditory spectrum.
Mm.
Certain different languages occupy a different frequency on the auditory
Mm.
spectrum.
Mm. Mm.
and and if, let's say, Japanese has a very low auditory frequency, whereas English is sort of mid to high. British English is even higher. So
Mm.
so if your language does not cover that auditory frequency, uh, it makes it more difficult for you to hear the intricacies of the
Mm.
sounds produced in that zone.
Mm.
So that made me, think about the hearing part. If you can't hear specific sounds, then obviously you cannot retain it, you cannot
Mm.
produce it, you
Mm.
cannot understand it, for one thing. And I tested this out with on my friends in Japan because it's quite well known that Japanese people have a difficulty with the R sound in English
Mhm.
and the L sound.
Mhm.
So they don't hear a difference between right field and light field.
Yeah.
Okay, so or bass and vase. This is also a sound that they have difficulty with. And Spanish speaking people also have this difficulty, I
Mhm.
think. And so I tested it out, and I asked them to turn around, and I would say a light field, right
Right.
field, and they
They
cannot
can't hear
hear
it.
the difference. So it's really the hearing problem, and not the fact that they're not able to produce that sound. And in Japanese, the Japanese alphabet is called Ayuel,
Mm.
hiragana. So these they actually have a line that is specific for this sound that's between the R and the L. It's
Mhm.
larirudero, and they have that sound, which is sort of the intermediate between the two. And
Mhm.
so yeah, like I said, I used to think that it's because they couldn't produce it, but it's
Yeah.
probably first a problem of hearing before it's actually a problem of speaking.
Yes, it's of hearing and also of understanding that it is a distinctive aspect of the phoneme, so that
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
have what is it? No, bed, ped. I have minimal pairs, you know, in phonology where you have the P and B that is distinctive also for Italian, for example, and others don't hear the difference. For example, also German speakers might say, well, or pronounce a B like a P or a P like a B, and not realize that in this way they are actually saying something different. And
And that
that is
actually
one,
goes pretty deep.
yeah,
These P sound, B sound, T
yeah,
sound, and
T
D
and D,
sound.
yes,
Especially if you go into languages like Mandarin,
yeah,
where we have lots of sounds that are like right in the middle. It's not a
yeah,
P. It's not like P,
and
but it's
yeah,
also not as soft as a B. It's like
yeah,
right between the two.
and
Uh,
yeah,
Oftentimes these get very, because you can't spell it out, and
no,
you can't romanize it, and so English speaking learners will have a very difficult time with these sounds.
yes, and as I'm trying to learn Korean, don't ask me to say any word in Korean. 감사합니다 is okay, but there when I listen to sound and I try to understand, is it now an an because with French you have these distinctive, yeah, the
Yeah,
vowels, and you know exactly you
yeah,
have
that
accent
many people
aigu,
can hear.
accent grave, accent circonflexe, and everything. And I say, is it now that one or that one? And then exactly the same word pronounced with an open A, and then another time by another speaker with a closed A. And I said, is this now something else, or is it the same word? Is it just a variation of the word, how you can pronounce it? Is it still acceptable, or does it change in
Yeah.
meaning? So I'm constantly back and forth, and I say, no, it's just because that person is.
Did I just say peanut or did I say car?
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And then I said, well, do I have to pay attention if I open it too much that it becomes something completely different? Or is it okay if I just pronounce it the way it comes out, so to say? But because
So,
I have, yeah, we have somehow the baselines by us. I mean, very often we talk about baseline when we say, okay, that's the first language or the first two languages. But actually, as multilinguals, we have a very multifaceted baseline, because we grab now these E come from French, but I don't
yeah,
have them
yeah.
in German, or the PB, I have them from Italian, but I don't have them in German
That's right.
either.
So you have an
So
anchor in
yeah,
different,
you have, yeah, and you try to figure out which rule pertains to which language, which one you can use for what language, and it's not necessarily then languages that are imparented, right? That have the same rules, but there we go a bit too far. But I would like to
well,
just invite everyone, please ask
yes.
questions or say
I was
something
just gonna
about
say, yeah, shout
this
out to
topic.
everybody who's watching right now. You are all welcome to provide your opinions on what we've been
What
discussing.
sounds, yeah,
At
what
least the
sounds
first
are
part.
difficult for you to understand or to learn in a new language, for example, or for your children? Yeah.
And at least this first part that we've been talking about, strictly speaking, about accents. Do you believe that you can have native level accent later in life? Uh, if so, under what conditions? Perhaps yes, but you need to have
A
XYZ as a
training.
condition, a training,
Yeah.
or you have to have spoken many languages, or whatever. If you're a monolingual English speaker, you have no chance. Maybe some people would say. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Oh,
What do you think
I,
are
I hear it
because
very often. Yeah.
because it's true that we don't see people with native level accents in a second, third, fourth language that often. It's very rare. Whereas we do see people who are able to speak very fluently or have a very high level of proficiency in a
Yes.
different language, but they still have that accent. For some reason, they're not able to get rid of the accent.
Hmm. But
And of course, there's also the discussion of whether it's important or not.
yeah,
That's a
exactly.
total separate discussion. Okay, I'm not
Yes,
saying it
but
is or not. I'm just saying, are
yeah.
you able to or
Yes,
not?
I had a colleague at the university, and it was at the Department of Linguistics, and he was always trying to figure out who had what kind of accent, and he was very bold, I must say, because he
Yes.
would find accents in everyone, and sometimes we just discuss about, yeah, but we were just talking, I don't know, German, and now we are turning to the other side, it's Italian. Of course, there is like a transition accent that you might have
Okay,
until
but is
you're
he
back.
not talking about the typical
Yeah,
accent? If a German person speaks English, it sounds a specific way. If it's a French person speaking English, it sounds a specific way. That is that
And you
characteristic
recognize
accent.
him always? Yeah, the
Yeah, I mean, I
characteristic.
definitely recognize French,
Mhm.
German.
German, you
Um,
recognize me with
yeah,
German?
yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be able to differentiate between German and a French
Mhm.
person speaking. Maybe not German and a Swiss German. You know, that I don't know. And also the same would go for Japanese. Japanese people have
Mhm.
a very distinctive way of speaking
Mhm.
English, uh,
Mhm.
close
Yes,
to Korean, I would say,
and
similar.
and
But
and Chinese as well. Yes, my
yeah,
friends who can
and again,
speak
there's a
Arabic.
characteristic way of speaking.
But I honestly I like it very much
Yeah, I
to
mean,
have these different ways
mhm.
to pronounce, and
Good.
that's the advantage of speaking different languages, that we can look beyond the accents, right?
Mhm.
So it's not something that is hindering our understanding. Are there any comments on Facebook or YouTube? Because I can't see them.
No, no,
No,
I'm not seeing
nothing.
anything
So
today.
everyone is maybe
Yeah, we're
on
not having a lot
holiday.
of activities on
No,
the
that's
different
fine.
platforms, except Instagram, which have quite a few people come in and out.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, anywho, so that was the accent part. I don't know about the other uh, other parts of language learning. I think if you already speak one or two languages, yes, learning that third, fourth, fifth language probably makes it easier and easier. Uh,
Can be.
but it would depend on which language you're trying to learn. If you're a
Yeah.
monolingual English speaker trying to learn Spanish for the first time
You're
versus a polyglot uh, trying to learn Nepalese for the first time, I would
Hmm.
still bet on the monolingual learning Spanish
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
So it's that difficulty, that absolute difficulty of a specific language that also comes into play.
Hmm. Yeah.
For sure, because many of these polyglots that we see online, these Richard Simcots and the Benny Lewis of the world, they're all a lot of them were monolinguals until like late teens or
Later
early
on.
20s, and they still go out there and they just learn one language after another,
Hmm.
most likely starting with relatively achievable languages like Spanish and for an
Hmm.
English speaker, obviously. Spanish, French, these are relatively easier to access for these
Hmm.
guys.
Yeah, that's interesting to see also what languages they would or polyglots,
Mhm.
depending on what is their first language or are their first languages, which are the next languages that they build practically.
Mhm.
If you think about the multilingual or polyglot journey like a building, what are the fundamentals, so the foundations of it, and then where do you build? What building is the most stable one, the most sturdy one?
Mhm.
um, that would be interesting as well. Yes, I mean the studies about polyglots. I know that some have done some studies about this. We had
Okay.
Ulrike Jessner,
Yeah.
who was one of our guests at Raising Multilinguals Live, who did studies about that, and some of her students, and also Larissa Aronim. She also
Yes.
was a guest at Raising Multilinguals Live, and she also has interviewed some people about that. So there's a lot. Many questions that one can ask. What question would you like to ask if there would be some research on older?
Well, the question we were talking about
Multilingual.
earlier, it does. Uh, it, it 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 seems to me that people who have learned different languages when they're young have a better chance at learning uh, next language when they're older, especially with respect to the accent and the natural way of speaking. But that's not, it's not proven. I do
No,
wonder if there's any
no.
studies that actually, you know.
Talk about that, yes. And
Mhm.
then also the rest of the language, so the grammar, the pattern that can repeat or that are
Mhm.
completely different, and which one can we memorize better? The ones that are very similar to those we already know, aren't we going to be more confused?
Mhm.
Because we assume that then when, let's say, certain verbs, for example, follow the same rules, then also the other ones do, and then they don't. So
I
it's
do
even more
I do think
difficult.
the benefits outweigh the inconveniences.
I think so, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's true. Yes, if you're learning Italian and French and Spanish and Portuguese at the same time, uh, chances are you're going to get all four relatively quickly because they all have the same Latin base, and many words are applicable, right?
Right.
Directly applicable. If it's fantastico and it's fantastic, and it's quick to learn. But then there are things that are different, like masculine and feminine. Often they're different for whatever reason. I find this completely baffling that une dent, tooth is feminine in French, but it's un diente in Spanish. But it's like, why it's
In
the same
Italian,
word,
the same.
right?
Un dente.
Yeah,
Yes.
and certain things like in Spanish you say me gusta algo, something pleases me. To say I like it, something pleases me. But if you in the same expression in Portuguese is actually a transitive verb. Now gosto something, you would say I like something directly,
Yes.
like in English. So these are things I think would cause certain interference
Yes.
between the languages. But still, if you say gosto or if you say me gusta in Portuguese, I think people will understand you, and the benefits of the proximity of these languages outweigh the inconveniences.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day because my children, yes, they're schooled in English, and I was telling them that if you use, for example, the word eventually in English, yeah, it is a given. If you say, I'm, I don't know, I'm going on holidays eventually, you know that you're going. Yeah, it's a fact. You have decided to go.
Okay.
Mais je vais éventuellement aller en vacances. It's
Okay,
not a
it feels
given.
less, yeah.
No,
Like
you're not
someday,
necessarily going.
maybe.
Eventualmente andrò in vacanza in Italian, the same as in French.
Uh-huh.
And
It's a
also in
nuance.
German, if you say, ich werde eventuell in die Ferien fahren, it's not a given, so you
Okay.
stay home. So only in English you would go. That's clear. But it's something that my children with a more in-depth feeling or being more dominant than in English, they sometimes say, yeah, eventuell komme ich dann später nach Hause. And I say, are you going to stay out?
Yeah, are you ever going to come back?
And they say, no, but I said that I'm going to come back. And I said, no, you said eventuell. So, and you said it in German. So then you have this kind of, doubt. And this feeling for words that are the same words in the different languages, but with a slightly different or even very different meaning is something I find it very interesting to see.
Indeed. It's that weird feeling, right?
Yes.
You don't know why it's right or wrong grammatically, but you just know. And if it's a second or third language, then you don't have that weird feeling, and then you just say things because you apply what you know. Like something that I was corrected on is in English you say I'm coming. Oh, hey, Tetsu, come here. Yeah, I'm coming. You don't really say I'm going. You say I'm coming, as in I'm bringing myself there. But in other languages like Spanish or in Japanese, I used to always say I'm coming, but they say no, you're going. In Spanish also that's the case. You're leaving a specific place to go to the next place. So it felt weird at the beginning, but once you get used to it, then it's second nature.
Right? Yes, also in Italian you have arrivo or vengo.
Yeah.
Arrivo. And in French you would say j'arrive, attends, j'arrive.
Je m'en viens.
Ou je viens.
Je m'en viens. So that's yeah.
Okay. Is there a difference between?
It's like I'm on my way. Je m'en viens.
Je m'en viens, mais ça c'est le français québécois, c'est le français canadien, oui.
C'est possible. Oui. Je viens, nous on dirait pas je viens. Je viens, c'est
different. Tu ne dis pas je viens, j'arrive. J'arrive, attends que j'arrive.
J'arrive, also we say that, yeah.
Oui.
J'arrive.
Même si tu n'es pas encore dans la chambre.
Mm.
Even if you're in the other
I'm leaving
room.
like my home.
And you think, the arrival of a train, yeah?
Yeah,
For
oh,
example,
yeah,
you
that's
see, you see him coming, and if someone tells you, j'arrive, you think, where are you? I don't see you yet. I'm still on my way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So it's weird and random. You know, when I first started learning French when I came to Canada, it was very difficult for me to accept that there's no rule to masculine and feminine.
Mm.
Like I thought that there must be a rule. Maybe you don't know it, but there must be a rule for it to be, masculine or feminine.
Yes.
There are certain patterns,
Mm-hmm.
but I have come to accept that there are no rules, precisely because in other, Latin languages, a word with the same etymology would be masculine in one and feminine in another, like the tooth that I mentioned. So, but there are patterns that I've come to find out, like
Yes,
gouvernement, everything that's MENT are all
le
masculine.
gouvernement,
Everything that's
le changement.
TION or ION, these are all feminine. Information.
Like in German, everything with height is die. It's a die, height, Krankheit,
Yeah. Okay.
Endlichkeit.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
all kind of
So
rules. Yes.
those are good to know so that you can apply easily
But
to all the
you,
other words that you don't know. But when
yeah,
you have to learn every word, that drove me up the wall, because if you grew up in that language, you have that feel for it. But
yes, I had some, because I was also teaching German to other speakers, so of other languages, and I had some students who would say, with every time that they were not very sure if it was der, die, or das, they would say de. So just the de, yeah, de. And then I said, what should I choose? He said, der, die, das, dem, den, dessen, wessen, wohin auch immer. And that was very, very funny. And they said, oh, I really don't know. But saying it out loud often helps. And I said, try all three of them. Which sounds better? You have the time. You can just hear yourself.
I do say it like in my head before blurting it out, but sometimes it just doesn't.
No. Yeah.
And there are words that work both ways. Not like un livre, une livre. They have different meanings, right?
Yeah.
One
Une
is
livre, c'est
a
le
book,
poids.
yeah, and the other is the weight. But there are words where you can use both ways, like video.
La
Some
vidéo,
people
le
say
livre.
une vidéo. Some people say un vidéo. Le vidéo, la vidéo. They both sound okay, and they're both used. Or habiter. Like j'habite. Some people say j'habite Québec. Some people say j'habite à Québec.
Mm-hmm.
They both sound natural to me.
Yes, j'habite Québec.
If you say j'habite Québec, it feels to me like it's more French from France.
J'habite là.
Yeah, no, j'habite. J'habite un endroit. J'habite Québec. J'habite Montréal. It sounds more French.
I would say
j'habite à Québec or j'habite à Montréal, then it feels like it's more Quebecer French.
Oh, okay. I would have said the other way around. So habiter quelque part, c'est locatif, c'est habiter à.
Oh, okay.
C'est plus, oui.
Well, there you go.
I would have now. For me, I can look into it, but for me, it sounds more like.
I'm looking into it.
But no, I'm interested. J'habite Montréal, c'est peut-être plus colloquial. Tu n'écris pas j'habite Montréal.
Non, je crois que j'habite Québec, ou j'habite Montréal, c'est plus, ça sonne plus
formel
pour moi.
Ah, ok. Tu vois?
Le langage familier, ça serait plus j'habite à Québec. That's what I think.
I would have said exactly the contrary, but you see, we speak the same language, but two different kinds of the language, and then we with different experience on using the language. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And also many people say the Quebecer French is more anglicisé, like it's more anglicized, I don't know, like English, more English influence. But sometimes I feel no, it's actually the opposite. I think the Quebecers, there's so much pride in this language that they want to make sure that it's not so influenced by the English language, although it's quite unavoidable. So we have words that French people won't use, like in fin de semaine, we say fin de semaine, instead of weekend. French people say, "Oh, je te vois le weekend." They use that a lot more than the Quebecers. They say, "On va faire du shopping." No, we don't do shopping here. We go magasiner.
On va faire les vous allez magasiner?
Magasiner.
Ah, c'est bon. Nous, on va faire les courses, on va faire une
balade. Then once you say that, we know you're not Quebecer.
No, I don't mind as long as we go to the same places. We do the same things.
So that's those are similar. Those are things where I go, no. Quebecer are more consciously using specific French words. But then you go to a garage, and we talk about le muffler, le windshield, le winker.
Voilà, les termes techniques.
These are all English words spoken in French, right? Le break à bras.
Il faut breaker.
Ouais, il faut breaker.
Vous dites breaker, vous utilisez le verbe.
Absolument.
Il faut breaker.
Il faut breaker là.
Il faut scanneriser ou il faut scanner? Qu'est-ce qu'on fait?
Scanner. Non, on dit on va scanner. But we never say stopper.
Stopper, on ne stoppe pas. On s'arrête.
Some words they're really keen on using the French word. Some areas they just don't care.
That's the beauty of the language and the contact with the other language that makes certain terms become part of the language and others a bit more resistant towards others.
I think the Quebecer French uses much more old expressions. It's more of a preserved French than the French.
Yeah,
but from an accent perspective, I do feel that it's pretty clear that the Quebecer accent is very different from the other French-speaking countries. France, the Belgium, all the African countries, they all seem to have a variation of the same accent, whereas Quebecer French sounds like a different language to many people. Because the accent is so strong.
Yes, but you have also in the southern part of France or in different regions, you also have very strong accents that are. I had a teacher from Montpellier.
Okay.
I can't imitate it. I mean, I would have to practice a little bit before going live with that. But that was also very, very particular accent. That you could say, okay, you are coming from Marseille and region, or you're coming from Carcassonne, La Bretagne, and all kind of places. Yes. And then you have the accent of the Swiss romande, the French part of Switzerland. Yeah, you can tell a little bit the difference. You can situate everyone a little bit around there. Hi, Harmonia Multilingual. Hi, nice to have you on.
Yes. Shout out to everybody who's stuck around through some of our discussions on accents. I guess that's the topic for today. But yeah, before you know it, we're almost at the top of the hour.
At the top of the hour.
It's time to do a little last shout out to everybody. If you do have a comment about what we've been talking about or a question, hope you don't open a new can of worms that'll take us 20 minutes to answer, but something real quick, do go right on ahead. Otherwise, I think it's time to start wrapping up slowly. Next week, what's happening next week? We have a very special guest next week.
Yes, we have Annick de Houwer as our guest, but we are not going to meet on Tuesday. We are going to meet on Thursday at this time. So at 7 p.m. Paris, 6 p.m. London, and 1 p.m. New York. And yes.
So Anik from the Harmonious, what's it, the Harmonious Net?
Habilnet.
Habilnet. Okay.
Yes.
So
Harmonious bilingualism.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And what's the topic this time? Last time she talked about how to communicate with, how to talk to kids, how to encourage them to speak certain, your target language.
Yes.
But what's the topic this time?
Next week, we're going to talk about why we should not compare bilingual or multilingual people, children, to monolinguals.
Yeah.
So it's time to say goodbye to this kind of comparison. But of course, there's so much research on that compares bilinguals with monolinguals for different reasons, and she's going to share the why and what this will look like and sound like, and hopefully there will be a shift very soon. Yes.
Sometimes I do wonder, is the world getting smaller, and are there more and more multilinguals in the world? Or the alternative is, we've been there the whole time. It's just that the internet brought us closer together. Internet, sort of allowed us to come out from our hiding place.
I think both, because multilingualism has existed since the beginning. I mean, people have been speaking different languages or different variants of the same language, regional languages, for a long, long time.
Indeed. We just never thought too much about it, as much as today, where it's highly relevant, and it's a tremendous tool and advantage in any field of work, I think, today, to be able to speak a second or third or fourth language. Yes. It is also why we are raising our kids in multiple languages. Obviously, this is not the only reason, but yeah, it's more relevant than ever, and it's not turning back, for sure. We have passed the point of no return, and we are opening the horizons, widening the horizons to our kids more and more. And hopefully, with what we do here, Ute, with Raising Multilinguals Live, we could bring in more and more allies and have everybody join this bandwagon, I guess. We're all going in the same direction. Is there a little comment that just came in at the end?
Yes, from Nasha. I'm so sorry I can't watch your lives live, but I always, you're just doing it now. But I always watch the recordings. Thanks you very much for your important work with and for multilingual families. Thank you very much, and also for your work, because you're doing a lot as well. So we are in the same boat and on the same page, I know.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much.
It's amazing.
And
thank you.
These are the comments that drive us.
Yes.
That keeps us going and doing what we do. It's not like how would I say? It's not a super huge market like finance, or it's not a super huge market like gaming, where you open a channel and we've got lots of people who are interested in that, or sports, right? Yeah. Multilingualism in and of itself, as I mentioned earlier, is not well known yet, and we're going to be one of those who are trying to pry open this whole area and develop it, because it's not that the market's not there. It's not that there are not multilinguals and polyglots around the world. It's how do we unify them? How do we bring them together? How would we knit this community and bring us all moving in the same direction? That's sort of what we're doing, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
And one chat at a week, one chat at the time.
One chat at a time. One live chat at a time.
One live chat at a time. Yeah, it could be one, right? It's just sometimes they just come up like, okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Very good.
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for following.
Next week, Thursday. Remember, don't forget, it's a Thursday and not Tuesday next week. We will be talking to Annika Howard. About multilinguals and why we should not compare them to monolinguals in research. Okay, until then.
And everywhere, actually.
And everywhere in life. Indeed.
Bye. See
Okay.
you next
Okay.
week.
Talk to
Bye.
you. Talk to you. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, this side.